Hello everyone, it's me, James Fisher. This is a complete guide on how to apply and take the SATs in Singapore. Let's start off with how to apply to take the SATs here in Singapore. I applied via College Board. I'll have the website link in the description for you to check out, and I'll do a quick run through of how I applied. So on the College Board website, I first created an account, and then I went to view the available test dates, seats, and exam centers. Do remember to sign up in advance because a lot of the exam centers are full when you sign up later, and you won't have that many options, and some of the exam centers might be further away from where you live. So I would recommend signing up maybe a few months in advance. Just make sure you're aware of where the exam centers are located so you're more prepared. So after you've applied for the SATs, on the College Board website itself, you can check out some of the tests and study materials available to prepare yourself for the exam and to revise through all of the English and math required for the test, and to really familiarize yourself with the testing and syllabus. There is a very clear format for both the English and math segments. You have the reading segment first. It's all multiple choice, followed by the writing, which is also all multiple choice. Then you have, for math, no calculators segment and a calculator segment. I personally did not use the College Board website to revise. Instead, I used another website called ePrep because my dad has access to their programs, but it is a paid program with lessons that prepare you for the SATs, and there are actually 6 practice tests that you can try that have the SAT formatting on them, and also lots of mini quizzes for both reading, writing, and the math segments. And a lot of the SAT preparation is very repetitive, and I would consider it to be simple math and grammar. Next up, let's discuss some of the things that you need to bring with you for your exam. Some of the mandatory things include 2B pencils, a sharpener, and an eraser. And of course, your calculator. I use the Texas Instruments TI 84 plus CE. You have to check that your calculator is actually on the list of approved calculators before you actually bring one for the exam, and your IC to identify yourself, or other documents like your passport or entry documents into Singapore. If it's required, you have to again check what is required on the College Board website. Of course, another very important thing to bring with you is your admission ticket or entry pass. It will be emailed to you after you sign up for the SATs from College Board, but just be careful and make sure you have the latest updated version of your admission ticket, because College Board actually sent me an updated one 3 days before my exam. So make sure to double check your email and print out the correct version of it. The administrative people will only accept a printed version of your admission ticket, and you can't just show them your phone screen because they want a hard copy version of it to check against their database. Then bring your phone, because when I went, it was required for us to use Trace Together to scan in, and I assume it's because it's a large-scale event with more than 500 people, so they just want to make sure that you check in and out of the school. Another requirement for my SATs was I had to wear a mask, and I brought extra ones just in case I needed them. But I'm not sure how the situation is going to be next year, but for me, I had to do the whole Trace Together and wear a mask inside. Some optional things to bring would be a water bottle to stay hydrated, Another optional thing that you can bring in to the exam room is actually snacks, because there is a 15-minute allocated break time. Some of the things that you're not allowed to bring with you for the SATs include highlighters, mechanical pencils, pens, staplers, or any type of electronic devices that could allow you to cheat on the exam or communicate with someone outside. Here are some tips and advice that I have for those of you who are going to be taking your SATs. Arrive early. Make sure you arrive early, a little bit earlier than when the gate opens, because a lot of people are taking the exam and it takes a while to register and go into the exam center. So just make sure to arrive a little bit earlier so you're not late and panicky, and you have sufficient time to calm yourself down before the exam. And very important, make sure to charge your calculator if your calculator is a chargeable one, or make sure your calculator has new batteries so your calculator doesn't just fail on you halfway through the exam. And as I mentioned earlier, double check your emails, because College Board actually updated the admission ticket for my SATs about 3 days before the exam, so just make sure you're always checking your emails, and also check your spam in case the emails don't make it to your primary mail. And remember, you have to print out your admission ticket. Make sure you have a physical copy of it, and don't forget to bring your IC so they can identify you. And you might be asked to pull down your mask for the administrative staff to just take a look to make sure that you are who you say you are, and just verify your identity. I would recommend you go to the toilet in between breaks. I would also recommend that you shade in your answers while doing the questions, because what matters most is your answer sheet is fully shaded in, because that's the only thing that they will look at, and not your booklet with the questions. So there are no phones allowed once the exam begins. Make sure your phone is off, because if it makes any noise, they could disqualify you. And you're not allowed to talk in the exam room, so don't talk to anyone. Just make sure you're doing the right section at the right time. Invigilator will be walking around, making sure you're doing the right section within the allocated time, and you're not allowed to go to the previous sections once that time is up. And of course, please get enough revision before entering the exam room, because you're not allowed to take out your notes or revise during the break times. So make sure that you are well prepared in advance for the exam. And of course, make sure to sleep early so you're alert and focused. Now let me share a little bit about my personal experience taking the SATs here in Singapore. So my exam center was actually the Stanford American International School, and I had to report by 7:30 a.m. because that was when the gates would open, and the gates closed at around 8:30 a.m. and the exam started at about 9 a.m. At the gate, everyone was required to scan in using Trace Together, and then the administrative staff checked our entry proof, which is the admission ticket, and also our NRIC or identification cards. First, we took the reading test, which was 65 minutes, 52 questions, and then after the reading test, we had a 10-minute break. After the 10 minutes was up, then we flipped to the writing portion of the test, 35 minutes for 44 questions. Again, it's all multiple choice, just shade A, B, C, or D, and there was no break this time, so immediately after the writing segment, we moved on to the math, no calculator. For this, we had 25 minutes for 20 questions. For the first 15 questions, it is multiple choice, but then for the last 5, we had to write in and shade our answers. And typically the last 5 questions for the math no calculator section are these short, relatively straightforward questions where there's actually space on the paper to work out your answers, and then just put in the final answer into the 4 blank spaces that they have in the answer sheet. After the math no calculator section, they gave us 5 minutes to use the toilets and eat our snacks if we wanted to. Then we moved on to the last part of the exam, which is the math test with calculator. 55 minutes for 38 questions, and the last 8 questions you have to answer it yourself, similar to the no calculator math portion. But the first 30 questions for the math test with calculator, you're allowed to just choose one of the 4 options. And after we finished that section, it was over. I ended around 12:30 p.m., so it's a half-day type of exam. A few days before my exam, I decided I was going to visit the exam center so I'd know exactly where to go. And this is what I wore that day. Of course, before leaving the house, I had to put on my mask. This was what I had for breakfast before taking my SATs. The sandwich was really good, and I kept on taking big bites of it because it was so delicious. Then I drank some green tea and my vitamins. And don't worry, I finished most of my food, unlike those movie characters. Okay, so I did this thing where I arrived too early. It says the gate opens at 7:30 and now it's 6:30, so I still have 1 hour to study. I'm so glad it's finally over. I'm done with my SATs. Woo! And here's a sneak peek of the school. Now let's talk about my SAT scores. I took my SATs on 7th May 2022, and the results came out within 2 weeks, so I got my results on the 21st of May. My SAT score was 1,330 out of 1,600. For math, I got 690 out of 800, and for English, I scored 640 out of a possible 800. You can request College Board to send in your results to the universities you are intending to apply for in the US. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the very end. I hope this was informative and comprehensive, and I wish you all the best for your future endeavors. Thank you. Bye!